So our speaker now is our honorary guest from Turkey, the Finance Minister, Mehmet Simsek. So please join me welcoming the Minister, His Excellency Simsek.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to be here. I want to thank the organizers as well as everyone who is here. There's absolutely no question that conventions like this help bring our nations closer together. I'm also delighted to see among us honorable senators and members of Congress at today's luncheon. A warm welcome to all. And special thanks to Honorable Kirsten Gillibrand, U.S. Senator, as well as Honorable Congresswoman Rose Lehtinen. I'm sorry if I missed anybody else. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, United States and Turkey are not only strategic partners as described by President Obama and Prime Minister Erdogan, but also actually quite natural allies. Plenty of reasons for that statement. First of all, both countries are striving to achieve peace and stability in the Middle East, which is absolutely critical, not only to national security interests and future of both Turkey and US, but also to global prosperity and stability. In the Middle East, we share the same goal of lasting peace between Israel and its neighbors. Both Turkey and the United States support a secure and united Iraq that doesn't serve as a safe haven for terrorists. We also support Arab people's desire to achieve better standards of democracy and prosperity. So I think that's on its own is strong enough reason why we have a lasting alliance and going forward certainly that's going to strengthen. Secondly, United States and Turkey face a common threat from terrorism, and both countries have been fighting against global terrorism and radicalism. We continue to provide strong support for US fight against Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, and we're very grateful for the US support for our fight against PKK terrorism. And we very much appreciate the recent steps that has been taken by the US, which strengthens Turkey's hand in its, as I said, effort to contain terrorist activities by PKK. Thirdly, access to energy is essential for functioning of any modern economy. So working together to ensure energy supply security is also top priority, not only for US, but also for Turkey. Considering that Turkey is now a major energy consumer, as well as its central role as an east-west corridor for oil and natural gas, I think that that also underlines the importance of cooperation on energy supply security issue together. Fourthly, as mentioned by previous speakers, as members of G20, both countries work together to ensure a well-functioning of an open global economy and reject the pressures of protectionism at times like this. Finally, we also share common values such as democracy, respect for human rights, and rule of law. As the title of this convention is New Opportunities and New Challenges, now I would like to highlight a few of these opportunities and challenges. First, there is an increasing attention to Turkey's growing economic and political ties in its neighborhood in Middle East region. Some, both in the US and elsewhere, misguidedly interpreted Turkey's growing economic and political influence in the region as a threat. However, recent events have shown that Turkey's rising role in its neighborhood is in fact an asset and an opportunity for Turkey, for its allies and people in the region. A good example of this is Prime Minister Erdogan's recent speech in Cairo, where he re-emphasized the importance of adopting a secular, democratic values, market-oriented economic model. As a democratic and prosperous nation, Turkey's economic leadership is a powerful force for progress across the region. As we consolidate our own democratic progress at home, we can serve as a better source of inspiration for peace and stability in our neighborhood. Turkey has been vocal in its condemnation of President Assad's brutal campaign against his own people, and we continue to support a more democratic, a more stable, a more prosperous region, which includes Syria as well as other countries in the region. So I think we can spend a lot of time highlighting the virtues of having better standards of democracy and open economy and prosperity that comes with it. But I think it's best seen rather than talked about. Every year we host over 1 million Iranian tourists. We host over 1 million Syrian tourists until recently, and from other nations. And when they come to Turkey, they realize that even without having natural resources such as oil and gas, that Turkey can actually prosper. And Turkey has relatively high democratic standards. That Turkey has respect for human rights. That Turkey is also at peace with its Western neighbors and Western allies. That Turkey can be part of a global network that promotes all these values. So when they see when they look at Turkey and look at their own country and see the difference, I think they recognize and they appreciate all these factors much better than when it is told to them, when it's essentially explained to them. I think that's very important, and that's why, even though we don't claim any role in Arab awakening, I think certainly the progress in countries like Turkey was a source of inspiration for many people in the region. A second opportunity and challenge is, unfortunately, economic ties between Turkey and US do not reflect the strong political and security cooperation between our two nations. This is largely to do with our entrepreneurs' strong focus on European market. Turkey's exports rose from about $30 billion in 2000 to about, probably this year, around $140 billion. But our exports to the United States rose from about $3 billion to a mere $4 billion, so almost no increase. And our exports to US represents less than 0.1% of United States imports. So unfortunately, there is a lot that is missing here, and fortunately, there is a lot we can do together here. This is a challenge, but also it can easily be converted into an opportunity. Turkey has done a lot of reforms, and we have tripled per capita GDP over the past 9-10 years. And we are now the 6th largest economy in Europe. We have created more than 4 million jobs since end of 2007. And we have an ambition to become one of the top 10 world largest economies in the coming years. We have extremely favorable demographics with a median age of 28. We also have a very strong and stable government that is focused on doing further structural reforms that would help boost productivity. So a combination of favorable demographics and rising productivity means rising per capita GDP. And I think it's time for business people from the United States and Turkey to pursue opportunities that would serve prosperity of our two nations. There are enormous opportunities in many sectors, but also in particular in energy, in particular renewable energy, in infrastructure, in tourism, in biotechnology, in many other sectors. And I think, US is a modern, high-tech country, while Turkey is a rising, emerging market. And I think if we can combine our strengths here, then we're not only going to take advantage of opportunities here in the United States, which is the largest market in the world, but also in Turkey, which is also one of the top markets and certainly one of the largest 8 growth markets in the world. And I think we could also take advantage of opportunities in third countries, because Turkey in its region has very strong linguistic, cultural, historic ties with Central Asia, with Middle East, with Africa. And I think US business people, entrepreneurs who want to do business in the region would probably, they already recognize, because Microsoft uses Istanbul as a base to cater for services for 83 countries. I think GE Health does the same. Many US or other global companies use now Istanbul as a center to provide services to the entire Middle East, Africa, Balkans, and Central Asia. So there are plenty of opportunities, not only in Turkey, but also in third countries if we can work together. What about challenges? I mentioned 2 opportunities. Well, one of the challenges is Arab awakening. In the short term, it looks like it is disruptive for trade and business. However, I would put this in the category of opportunities for both the US and Turkey, because clearly a Middle East, Africa, a MENA region that is more democratic, that is more stable, that has obviously, that listen to the will of their own people, that uses resources for enhancing the quality of human capital stock, for infrastructure, for the health of their citizens. I am absolutely sure that these nations, these regions will provide more opportunities for Turkey and US and joint ventures together. A second challenge is Eurozone sovereign debt crisis. Unfortunately, it's a major challenge, not only for Turkey and the United States, but for the entire world economy. Thanks to coordinated intervention by major global central banks this morning and improved consumer confidence in the United States, and hopes that some sort of progress on Eurozone debt concerns ahead of next week's EU leaders summit has brought some sense of normalcy and calm to the markets. In fact, there is some even euphoria today, which is very encouraging, because we have, for the past several months, I think this type of, we haven't had many of these type of moments. So I think it's very important that EU leaders actually do address some of the concerns about sustainability of sovereign debt, which is absolutely essential for the health of global economy, in particular US and Turkey. Usually, 2 questions are asked here. One is, what about any potential fallout from Eurozone crisis for Turkey? After all, Turkey has strong linkages with the European Union. Europe accounts for about 46–47% of our exports. It accounts for about 60% of tourist arrivals. Turkey is the 7th largest tourist market in the world. We attract about 30 million tourists. But also Europe accounts for about 80% of foreign direct investments inflows into Turkey. So when you have such strong linkages with the European Union, I think people understandably ask, what sort of fallout, does Turkey have any sort of contingency plan? What is Turkey doing to cope with a potential shock? Well, first of all, even though we do have these strong linkages, and therefore we are likely to be affected by an external shock, like everybody else, we have strengths that make us less vulnerable to such a shock. The problem in European Union is one of unsustainable deficits and debt. And debt to GDP ratio in Eurozone is now about 90%, and deficits remain well above what we call Maastricht criteria of 3% of GDP. In the case of Turkey, debt to GDP ratio is less than half of EU average, which is about just under 40%. Just to keep in mind, these ratios are very high in certain countries like Japan and many other industrial nations. So Turkish debt to GDP ratio is very low by European standards at just under 40%. Deficit is running at about 1% of GDP, which is well within Maastricht criteria. And Turkey's public sector net external debt was zero as of end of second quarter. So in that sense, we have a lot of fiscal room to maneuver. So I think it's important not what happens to you when you cannot control all the events around you, but it's important how you respond. And we have room to respond. Secondly, we've unveiled a very cautious medium-term economic program. I think that provides, it's an anchor, and it is quite credible because we've been implementing it for 3 years and we're revising it every year. And I think investors have strong confidence. That's why we can now borrow at lower interest rates than maybe 15 Eurozone members or EU members. So Turkey, even though it's not a member of EU, our cost of borrowing is substantially lower. We have a flexible exchange rate, unlike members of Eurozone, and we do allow adjustment, and adjustment has taken place, and that's going to help us clearly manage a soft landing going forward. Our household sector balance sheets are very strong. Not only we've created 4 million jobs in the past 4 years, but also household leverage ratio is very low. Household debt to GDP ratio in Turkey is about 17% compared to 59% in European Union. We have current account deficit, and that's the main, that's the main rough spot. And as I said, with domestic demand moderating, with credit expansion slowing down, with exchange rate adjustment, I think it's quite likely that we will see a visible decline in current account deficit starting early next year. And so also some of the problems that we have experienced have to do with cyclical issues, such as I said, disruption in some of our key markets in Middle East and Africa on the back of Arab Spring. Another question that is asked to me, because I'm not sure if we're going to take questions here, is do we still want to join European Union, considering that European Union is currently obviously suffering from all sorts of problems? Yes, we're still committed to EU accession process because the process itself is relevant. The end game is academic. The process is so important because it entails political, economic, and social transformation of Turkey. We are already in the process of real convergence with the European Union. Turkish per capita GDP in 2000 was about 30% of EU average. Now it's 48% of EU average. So we're narrowing the gap very fast. There is nominal convergence. Maastricht criteria that are not satisfied by European Union are actually satisfied by Turkey, Southern Europe. But also look at Germany, look at Sweden. They're doing pretty well. They're part of EU, which means it all boils down to how competitive you are, how reformist you are, and certainly Turkey, in that sense, has quite an edge. Europe will gain a lot from diversity of ethnicity. It's also secular, but it's also democratic, and it's also prospering, and it's also at peace with its neighborhood. And I think it's very important to show that examples like this could serve to bring together Muslims. We do have challenges, we do have opportunities. I mean, I don't want to go into details, but all I can say is that I think gatherings like these are very relevant, very important. So I'd like to thank the Turkic-American Alliance for organizing this event, because I'm absolutely convinced that the work you're doing today, people you're bringing together today, will not only help bring our two nations closer together, but also will help us overcome some of the challenges we have just discussed. So thank you very much, and thank you, senators and Congress, members of Congress, for being here. Thank you for being friends of Turkey, and I'm sure the relations between Turkey and the United States will thrive on the back of such events and such gatherings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our speakers. So I'd like to present one to the minister. First, ladies first. Ladies first.
Fark abi, Hüseyin Bey burada.
Selam.
Can we have a family picture before you? Arkadaşlar da all the parliamentarians please come.